Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for him. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. Thank you for sharing us with your friends. We are getting a larger audience because of you letting everybody know that we are working hard to let everybody know how important this plant is to the human race and the need to make it legal for everybody to have access to for medicinal reasons, as well as the hemp properties to build homes and to make furniture and clothing and fuel and food and all the groovy things that this wonderful plant can do. On the program today, my joint host, Al Graham, up in Canada, and I have a wonderful guest to share with you. Very unique individual, I must say. And I want to introduce Al to the show right now. Hey, Al Graham, you busy up there in Canada with the Pace Radio Network, aren't you?
Yes, we are busy up here. We're putting out a show every day of the week. It doesn't matter whether it's Sunday or whether it's Saturday. There is something airing on the Pace Radio Network. And you can find us at paceradio.net. And we also have, as well as cannabis programming, we also have psychedelic programming as well.
And today we have as a guest on the big broadcast, a gentleman who's been part of a legal government-funded medical marijuana program. And I know that may seem odd to a lot of you. Many of you may not even be aware of it, but it is a program that started out with a guy by the name of Robert Randall. And I'll let the individual who's coming on as a guest today share you all that information. He's also written a groovy book that you can probably find at Amazon and a few other places. I would encourage you to check it out. And his name is Irv Rosenfeld. Irv, welcome to the big broadcast today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Welcome, Irv.
Thank you.
Good meeting you as well.
Same thing. I hear we met in Toronto many years ago.
Yes, we did. Back in 2010, 2012. I'm not sure because the expo ran from 2010 to 2013. So I'm not sure exactly.
I was still young then. Okay.
So was I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met you up there. You were there with Patients at a Time. You had a booth. You had, you talked about your legal medical cannabis that you get from the government, as Casper said. And, you would think you were talking about Canada because we have a legal program. But in the U.S., people don't even realize that there is something on the federal end. So I think it's good that we've got you on the program today in order to let people know about that, and as well as what has been happening to you, because I have been reading some information here about the number of joints you've been smoking. Like, wow, big numbers. So why don't we get started by going back to the beginning?
All right. Well, Robert Randall, he said, was the first patient. He became legal in 1997. I guess it, well, no, 1987. Anyway, I became the second patient, and I became the second patient in 1982. I tell you, it's been so many decades ago, but it was in 82 that I became the second patient, and it was a struggle. It took me 10 years. Okay, I discovered marijuana in Miami in college, because I'm from Virginia. I came down to Miami because of the warm climate. I have a severe bone disorder. So I was a homebound student for 5 years, and the doctors thought maybe the warm climate in Miami would be conducive for my condition. So I came to Miami, and there I was introduced to marijuana. I had prescriptions for Dilaudid, for Quaalude, for Valium. I mean, you name the prescription, I had it. And I wasn't going to smoke that illegal drug because it's illegal.
Right.
After 30 days, I realized I wasn't making any friends. And I wasn't making any friends because I wouldn't smoke that marijuana. And in my apartment complex were all the students, and we'd be out swimming, and they'd go, let's go party and, smoke some pot and drink some wine or whatever. I wouldn't do it. After 30 days, I gave in to peer pressure and I tried it. It was pure garbage. Okay, people got high around me. I thought they were self-inducing it because I didn't get high. It didn't do anything for me. And about the 10th time I did it, I was playing a game of chess, which I hate. And it took me 30 minutes to lose, And when I lost, I stood up. And it dawned on me, wait a minute, I just sat for 30 minutes. I hadn't sat for more than 10 minutes in 5 years. So immediately I thought, in what way I take all the narcotics that I had? And it dawned on me I hadn't taken a pill for 6 hours. Well, how can I sit? And just then they handed me the joint. It was my turn. I looked at this piece of garbage because to me that's all cannabis was. Or back then it was marijuana. I mean, it wasn't cannabis, it was marijuana. And I said, this is the only thing I've done differently. I've smoked this marijuana. I wonder if there's any medical benefit for this. So I called my orthopedic surgeon who knew me since age 10 the next day. And I said, is there any medical benefit to marijuana? Well, he didn't know of anything. So he said, check with your family. My great uncle was head of pediatrics at Johns Hopkins at one point. My regular uncle was one of the heads of pediatrics at Yale. So I called them. I said, is there any medical benefit to marijuana? They go, we don't know. Well, I knew how to research. They knew how to research. So we went to the libraries. We started researching it. And lo and behold, we found that marijuana had been used for centuries for muscle relaxant, anti-inflammatory, and for pain. And I went, oh my God, that must be what it's doing for me. And I'm not getting high. If I wanted to get high, I had some bourbon. So,
So it was working medicinally for you.
It was. And alcohol was one of the things that really helped me pain-wise. So therefore, when I realized that marijuana was beneficial, I started using it more. And I was using it every day. And I was doing better. And I went, oh my God, this stuff really works. Well, then my friends started getting busted in Miami. And I realized that there was going to be a matter of time till I got busted. And I'm thinking, here my orthopedic surgeon can give me all the drugs I needed. I mean, whatever it is I needed, he'd give me a prescription for it. But he couldn't give me a prescription for marijuana.
No.
And so I decided, because of the research we did, we found out there was a farm in Mississippi that grew marijuana for medical research. Well, my disease is called multiple congenital cartilaginous exostosis and ovarian syndrome pseudo-hypoparathyroidism.
Good
Which
golly.
means
Like that's a whole page. That's not a
page.
That's like a whole page in a magazine.
It was.
Wow.
It was. And
You must
but I
have
knew
short form for that. 'Cause that's
the shortest form is multiple hereditary exostosis, which is what they call it today.
That's
But
the
the
short form.
Yeah, that's the short form. And the other disease means I could develop new tumors at any age, and existing ones can grow at any time.
And these are happening on your bones?
On the bones, on all my bones in my body, from my spine on down,
So it
basically.
didn't have to happen in a joint or anything like that. It just happened anywhere.
It can happen anywhere in joints and areas. I mean, they had to cut out certain tumors that were, as I was growing and going into growth centers and things like that. So I had many, many operations, because of it.
Wow.
And so, when I realized that my disease is so rare, that what if I take on the federal government? And this way, the government cannot argue that I'm going to open up Pandora's box. Because if they give it to me for my bone disorder, not many people in the world had my bone disorder. Therefore, I could do that. So I decided I could not do it in Florida. And I'm from Virginia. And Al, you don't know this because you're in Canada, but Virginia is the history of our country. Give me liberty, give me death, Patrick Henry. And so I figured if I'm going to take on the federal government, I better do it from Virginia. So I dropped out of school after 3 semesters, made dean's list, dropped out, went back to Virginia, and took on the federal government. Now, my family thought I was crazy. The doctors in my family thought I was crazy. But I knew I was right. I knew this stuff worked. And so therefore, that's what I did. And it took me 10 years, 10 long years.
Wow.
From 93 until I got hearings before FDA. And I had University of Virginia Law School assisting me in that respect. And I had hearings before FDA, and somehow I won those hearings. And so we didn't have to go to court. We were going to go into court and sue FDA, the way Robert Randall sued FDA with Steptoe and Johnson, who was a law firm for Robert Randall.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were going to go in and sue them after we did everything we could with the government, and they turned me down. Well, at the hearings, it was a 15-minute hearing that I had before 20 doctors at FDA in Rockville, Maryland. So the odds were that I was not going to win this lawsuit or this hearing, and UVA was prepared to go into federal court and sue. Well, during the hearing, one of the things I stated was that my doctor and I had studied that when I had Dilaudid, which is synthetic morphine, and I had marijuana to go with it, the Dilaudid lasts longer, and I didn't have to take as much.
Wow.
But when I ran out of marijuana, I didn't use more Dilaudid. And so that was one of the things I stated. And again, it's 15 minutes I had for the oral argument. I'd given a written argument. And so when I finished, you could see on the 19 doctors that they could care less. They were not going to approve me, and so we go into federal court and sue them.
They're just if you're mentioning all this, that hey, my Dilaudid use is going down when I'm using cannabis, which is a good thing, and it goes up when I'm not using cannabis. But they didn't see that as any benefit whatsoever.
Well, and I would think that they would be concerned as well about the side effects that are possible from the pharmaceutical drugs they were prescribing compared to the lack of side effects on the cannabis that you were using.
Well, this was back then when they didn't have any knowledge of cannabis.
Yeah.
Because it was only Robert Randall. He was the only patient. And he had glaucoma. So, I mean, glaucoma is totally different from what I needed it for. And so when the hearing was at Rockville, Robert Randall, who lived in D.C., said, Irvin, these are open hearings. I'm going to put posters all around FDA, and it's an open hearing, and we're going to have an audience. We're going to have the media there. We're going to have doctors there, because they can watch, government at work. Well, I must have had 100 people in the room, all kinds of doctors and everything else. Well, when I finished speaking, the chairman said, are there any questions from the audience? And a guy in a white coat raised his hand and said, I have a statement. And he said, what's your statement? The guy said, I'm an oncologist from Venezuela, of all places, Venezuela. He said, and I'm here studying pain treatments for cancer patients. And the best pain treatment y'all have here is the same thing we have in Venezuela, and that's Dilaudid. And you're saying that your doctor, when you had marijuana, used Dilaudid for 10 years, you did a study, and when you ran out of marijuana, you took more? This needs to be looked into with a regular supply.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he said that, you could see the faces on the 19 doctors. It's like, oh shit, we just lost. The chairman was so stunned, he didn't know what to do or what to say. So I stood up. I said to the audience, are there any more questions or statements? There were none. So I turned to the chairman and I said, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my oral presentation. And he had 9 doctors on each side of him, the chairman. He looked one way to look at everybody, the doctors, and they all looked away from him. He turned the other way, and they all looked away from him. And then he looked at me. He said, Mr. Rosenfeld, I think I can speak for the entire group of doctors here that your presentation was very eloquent and convincing, and you'll become the second person in the United States to receive a prescription for medical marijuana. And that's how I won.
So you had to go in front of all these doctors. Was it just getting one doctor approved? You got 19 doctors to approve of this.
Yeah,
this is back in the 80s, but wow, that is a huge feat for sure.
It was 82, and and the thing is with Venezuela, what's happened with our country now with Venezuela, and I think the doctor that that I owe everything to was from Venezuela,
Yeah.
and he was an oncologist. And so when I won, I immediately said, "Well, I need to go call my wife," and because they didn't have cell phones back then, so I went to a
That's right.
payphone. I went to a payphone and I called my doctor. And they answered the doctor's office. I said, "Get Henry Wave out of the patient. I need to speak with him right away." And they did. And I said, "Dr. Wave, we've won the use of marijuana." He said, "We have?" I said, "Yes. They've given me permission, and you're going to be the doctor in favor."
Mhm.
And who's going to go oversee it. And then he died. But then I had an endocrinologist that took over, Dr. Goldman, and he took over the project. And so from then on, I started getting marijuana from the federal government.
Now, did the doctors have to go through any type of training or any type of background check or whatever that would be special to their field in order to be part of this distribution of medical cannabis to a patient? Or did they just say, "Oh, write a prescription and have a good day"?
No, they did, okay? Because DEA had to agree that these were legal doctors. And that was Drug Enforcement Administration. Then FDA had to agree that the project was valid, which they had done in the hearing. So I had proved that. And then with both approvals, NIDA, which is National Institute of Drug Abuse, was the organization that grew it and shipped it. So with the approval from DEA and from FDA, NIDA had to ship it, and they shipped it.
Well, now I can only expect that the medical cannabis grown by our government's got to be fabulous and world class and just amazing, right? I mean, it's just got to be ooh la la.
No, it was not. And I never said that publicly. I was always very thankful to have it because, again, it was legal, and so I don't have to worry about getting arrested. But strength-wise, it was only 3 to 3.5% THC.
Oh, my toilet paper's got more THC than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I just want to back up a second there. When they approved the use, like for you and even for the first fellow there, here in Canada, when our first patient won the right to medical cannabis, there was no supply. Nowhere for that fellow to get his cannabis from. When Randall or yourself, like obviously yourself, there was supply already established, but was there always cannabis being grown by the government for research purposes when the very first person got this program, or did they have to?
No, they started growing it. From my knowledge, they started growing it in the mid '60s. And the farm was on the campus of the University of Mississippi in Oxford, Mississippi. And that was the only farm that grew it. They had 5 acres, which they grew marijuana. They then shipped the plant to Raleigh, North Carolina, to where it was chopped up, put in cigarette form, and then freeze-dried. So it didn't degrade too badly.
Right.
And so that's where it came from, was Raleigh, North Carolina. And so that's where it was shipped from. To the patients who were able to get it. And back then, I mean, in the 80s, the only other people that got it back in the 80s was cancer patients. And cancer patients got it from Sloan Kettering Research Center in New York City. And so the government did not send it to the patients back then. They sent it to the hospital. The hospital decided which patients were going to get it. So the only patients getting it at that point were cancer patients being studied or having treatments at Sloan Kettering in New York City. So
that means that our government quietly knew that there was a medical aspect to this plant and that there was benefit to it.
74, 72 or 74. There's reports.
This was in the early 70s, mid to late 70s. I mean, it was all during the 70s. Where they were shipping it to cancer centers for use. So, yeah, the government knew that it worked. Okay,
Yeah.
because they were shipping it. They were shipping it, but the government didn't care. I mean, it didn't matter to them. And so wasn't much anybody could do about it.
Right. So you got your approval to get going on things. As far as once you started to receive your medicine, how was that arranged?
Well, the cannabis
done.
wasn't that clean. The cannabis wasn't that clean between seeds and stems
Oh,
and everything else in there. He would give me. They would give me. Started with 10 a day, 10 cigarettes per day. So they would give me a week's worth to start with, which was 70 joints.
70 joints.
And they did that for like 4 weeks. And then the doctor got permission to give me the whole tin can, which were 300 cigarettes.
So that's a month's worth.
A month's worth, correct.
So what about a 31-day month?
They didn't care about that. Okay.
You gotta go one day without meds, I guess.
Well, I just had to cut back and make it last.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's what I did. That's what I did. And look, I never said it was garbage, but it was. It still is. Okay. But the point is, I was thankful to have it. So I never knocked the government. And to this day, I won't knock the government. Because it wasn't that they didn't know that it was really a medicine. They didn't know it. They didn't care, and they didn't matter to them. They were just
they knew
growing
enough
it.
that it helped the cancer patients. At least they knew that.
It did, and I met one of the cancer patients because he was the lead senator in Virginia, and a doctor, a lawyer. Who God, I can't think of his name right now. But when we passed a law in 78 and 79 in Virginia, I was instrumental in helping get that law passed.
Oh, nice.
And so we became, and again, Bob Randall was the one who started. And Bob was passing those state laws in about 20 different states. And knowing, he knew that I was trying to, because he was helping me. He knew that I was trying to get it legal. And so when it happened in Virginia and I went public, risking being arrested because I was admitting that I had marijuana in my car. I mean, I had over an ounce in my car and I was breaking the law.
Yeah, jail
and when
time.
the reason I went public was very interesting because they had the chief of police from Virginia Beach, Virginia, as one of the people that testified. And he stated that the thing to do is if this passes, we're going to have doctors give each other illegal prescriptions. And it's going to make his job tougher. So the senator said, well, what would be your answer? He said, very simple, shut down all the pharmacies. If you shut down all the pharmacies, there will be no more illegal prescriptions. Well, that makes sense to me, okay?
Yeah.
Well, when he said that, here I'm taking, 7 or 8 different prescriptions, that I relied on. My life depended on it. And so I hadn't signed up to speak, and they were breaking for lunch, and they said, if anybody wants to speak after lunch, come sign up. And they had wanted me to speak, but I was scared. I mean, I wasn't legal at that point. So I signed up, and I spoke. And so when I spoke, I knew I was going to be arrested. They had the state police there, the head of the state police. They had the head of the crime commission for Virginia there. I mean, all the legal people in the state of Virginia were there. So I decided that, something? If I was going to speak up, it had to be then.
Yeah.
And Bob, and we had attorneys there, and they said, Irvin, we've got attorneys here. You need to speak up. So I signed up, and I had never spoken publicly ever before, but I spoke. And one of the things I said, which to me made sense, is that we have a problem in this country with obesity. We have a problem with obesity.
Go ahead.
So I said, I can cure obesity in the hearing. I said, all you got to do is close up all the supermarkets in all the restaurants. If you close all the restaurants and all the and all the farms and everything else, then that'll stop obesity and nobody will be obese. Of course, they'll all die, but that was what I was trying to go back when he said,
Right.
"Well, close all the pharmacies."
We'll wait for the
If
cause.
that's the answer, then I can cure obesity. Close all the restaurants and all the farms and everything else. That'll cure obesity. And they realized where I was coming from. So when I finished speaking, I went and sat down, and who walks over but the head of the crime commission, the head of the state police. And I was away from everybody. I mean, I wasn't sitting with Bob, with the other attorneys. I was sitting away from people. And I knew I was being busted. They knew I was being busted. But I said what I had to say, They came over and sat down. They said, "Irvin, do you realize what you just did?" I said, "I did what I had to do." They said, "You really don't have any idea what you just did, do you?" I said, "I did what I had to say." I said, "They want to shut the pharmacies down? What am I going to do? Where am I going to get my medicine? Okay, that I need?" He said, "Irvin, we're here to stop crime. We're not here to hurt patients. We're coming to you saying, 'Irvin, what can we do to help you?'"
Wow.
And I was shocked.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Bob and the two attorneys were looking for handcuffs.
Yeah.
And I was
You're
too.
probably like
okay?
this.
And I was too. But they said, "What can we do to help you?" And so I said, "Well, what you can do is you can help me get the law passed in Virginia." And the senator was named Pete Babelis. So when the hearing came up in Richmond, in the state capitol, the final day of hearing, I was the lobbyist. Because Bob couldn't make it in. Bob was traveling around the country with other states. And he said, "Irvin, you can handle this. I know, and I saw what you could do, and you can handle this." So I was the main lobbyist. And I had never lobbied in my life. So I just looked at the other people that were lobbying and tried to copy what they were doing. And Pete Babelis was not talking to anybody. His staff, whatever. They'd go to the men's room, and I'd run to the men's room real quick to see if I can talk to him. And nobody would talk to us. So, okay. So now, with an hour to go, because it was 5 o'clock, they said we have one more hour, and then the hearing's over with. So I was hoping they'd say something, and they didn't. Finally, around 5:20, 5:25, Pete Babelis says, "I want to testify." Well, he was the senior senator in the state of Virginia.
Wow.
And so everybody, "Okay, fine, you testify. What do you have to say?" He said, "I'm being treated for cancer at Sloan Kettering Research Center. And if it wasn't for the marijuana they given me for the nausea, I would have stopped a long time ago." Everybody was shocked. Nobody knew he had cancer. And here he was being treated with marijuana from Sloan Kettering. It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, the opposition, which was Drug-Free America, okay, they pounced all over him.
I remember Drug-Free America.
They pounced all over him. Well, now the people that are going to vote against us, here is a senior senator saying, "I've got cancer, I'm using marijuana and it's working," and they're calling him a liar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, that didn't fly very well. So now all the opposition in the state of Virginia said, "No, we're not going to do that." So the opposition spoke, the guy with Drug-Free America spoke, and then I was the last spokesperson. And I spoke, and there was a smile on Pete Babelis' face. I knew I'd done right. And when they called for the vote, it passed unanimously.
Excellent.
Nice.
And
Yes.
so back then, Governor Dalton signed the law, and it allowed for use of marijuana for pain due to cancer and glaucoma. Well, when they brought that up, I said, "Look, I've never had cancer because I've had my tumors taken out." They said, "You're close enough." So when the law passed and got signed, it didn't get marijuana to anybody. They didn't bring marijuana to the state of Virginia. But at that point, I got a letter from my doctor saying that I had the right to be able to use marijuana in the state of Virginia because of my bone disorder. So I felt very comfortable. And I went that way until I won in 82 and became the second patient in the United States to have a prescription. And at that point, Bob and I were the only two patients in the world that could stand up and talk about the benefits of medical cannabis, not worrying about Johnny Law walking in and arresting us. So that's what we did. That's what we decided to do, that we could stand up and we could talk about this and we could help people get the medicine they needed. And that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, and then not only did you do that, but was it like 8 others or 7 others or 5 others that became patients?
Yeah, well, the third patient wasn't until 1988, and I was in 82.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
That's
so the
quite a bit of a
third
gap, eh? 6 years.
was 88, so it took 6 years. And that was LV Musica. Okay, LV Musica also had glaucoma. And she got busted for growing some plants at her house. She had a roommate that rented a room from her, and he turned her in. And she was busted.
Her own roommate turned her in?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess they were never roommates again.
I don't think she ever did it after that, but she did get turned in. And the judge, because we had hearings, because she was arrested. And the funniest thing is, the officer who arrested her said he came to her door, knocked on the door, she answered it, and he said, "I hear you've got marijuana here." She said, "Yeah, let me show you," and brought him into the house and showed the plants. And here's this cop.
I can see him doing that.
You could just, and in the courthouse, on stand, he felt so bad for her. I mean, in his voice and everything else, it's like, I didn't want to arrest her. She's a little old lady. I mean, what the hell? She's not hiding anything. She's not hiding anything. She's using it for glaucoma. And so the judge ruled a reverse insanity plea, meaning knowing what she knew, and her doctors testified in the hearing also, knowing what she knew, that the only thing that could save her eyesight was marijuana, it'd be insane for her not to use marijuana. And found her not guilty.
Good.
It took Bob about 8 months, 9 months, and I helped him to get LV legal. And we finally got her legalized. And they shipped the marijuana to an eye center in Miami, which is called Baskin Palmer. And the doctor who was on her side the whole time, the doctor was great. He testified in court. He did not know anything about marijuana at all. He calls me up. He says, "Irvin," he says, "here, I'm going to treat this patient, my patient with marijuana, and I have no idea what to use with marijuana. I don't have any idea. Would you come with her and tell me what to do?" So I said, "Well, yeah, I was planning to drive her down because, of course, LV can't see well enough to drive. She never could." And so I said, "I'm driving her down to the hospital." And I said, "I'll be glad to show you how to use marijuana if you teach me about glaucoma." He said, "That's a deal." So that's what I did. I drove her down there and I told the doctor how to use it, how to do it, and the testing that he ran for, the eye pressure. And her eye pressure, I remember when we started, was like 40, 50, pressure was high. And I said, "Let her smoke now 1 or 2 joints." So she smoked 2. I said, "Now take her pressures again." And they were 14. And he was amazed. He said, "I can't believe it gone down so much." And I said, "Well, let's wait about 30 minutes and have her smoke another joint." We waited 30 minutes. It was now 11 and 12. He said, "This is great." And he said, "What do we do now?" I said, "Well, it's lunchtime. Let's split for lunch." So we went to the cafeteria at Baskin Palmer and we had lunch. Then we came back. I said, "Now take her pressures again," which were back up to like 17, 18. And I said, "Let's go have her smoke again." And so she went and smoked, and her pressures were 12 again. And he said, I don't need it anymore. He said, "Irvin, I see it works. It really does."
Seeing is believing.
Yeah. And again, he was a great doctor. But the thing is that he stated was that he could not recommend it for any of the patients. He did not know enough about it. And yet LV was the one who convinced him that marijuana worked. So therefore, he backed LV, and LV became the third patient. So we had 2 glaucoma patients and me, and after LV we got a few more. And
George McMahon and Barbara who?
The next patient was George McMahon in Iowa. and then another glaucoma patient in Iowa, and turn that off. And she had glaucoma. And then the next two people were in Panama City, Florida. And, this was now the late 80s. And if you can remember the late 80s, we had a major problem in our country, and I'm sure in Canada too, with AIDS. Okay. Yeah. And the people that had AIDS, how did they get AIDS? Well, they were all or IV drug users or gays. Well, they weren't top of the list. I mean, people frowned upon those people. And Bob said, Irvin, we're gonna have like a joint venture with them. Mm-hmm. And I said, Bob, I'm not arguing. They need the medicine. I said, but we have enough people against us right now. I said, do you really want to align ourselves with the AIDS patients and IV drug users and gays? Well, I didn't realize at the time that both he and Alice, who was his roommate, were both gay. I didn't realize it. Okay, so he was really against it. I mean, he was against me, but whatever he said privately, I went along with. I'd always give him my opinion. And if he went against me, he said, no, Irvin, this is what we're going to do. I always agreed with him because he was the first patient. If it wasn't for him and Alice, I never would have gotten it. So I agreed, I agreed. So he calls me up one day. He says, Irvin, we've got to help this couple in Panama City. I said, we do? He said, yeah. He said they got married about a year ago, and they were both virgins. And now she has AIDS. And he has AIDS. And we've got to help them. Well, okay, Bob, if you say we got to help them, we will. He said, oh, wait a minute, I forgot to tell you, Irvin. Kenny has tainted blood because he has a disease where he had blood transfusions. And he got tainted blood, and that's how he got AIDS. And he gave it to his wife. Now, and then he said, what did they do wrong? Exactly. And so he was twisting the knife into me, but he had the right to. Okay. And so we helped them and we got them legalized. And so they were a great couple. They were fantastic. Okay. They were great. I loved them. And she died about 6 months later, and he died about a year later. And they were good people.
So then the total number that was on was like 10, and then it was stopped.
I use the term 13.
13.
Yeah, so I was thinking 12 or 13.
Right.
Yeah, there were 13.
So in all of history, in all of American history, there's only been 13 legal patients that were being provided medical cannabis by the United States government.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
And your comment about its quality wasn't really ensuring it's being high quality product, but yet it had these results with all of you.
It did. It helped me. Okay. But you had to smoke 10 of them a day. I mean, my prescription was for 10 a day. And so, I mean, you're constantly smoking basically. And I was a stockbroker. So, and I still am, so it's difficult, when you're trading stocks to say, well, let me walk outside for 30 minutes and smoke a joint. I mean, it's really difficult to do that, trading stocks.
Yeah, I see that.
But I did it, okay, because my health meant more to me than anything else. And I had to be in good shape to be able to handle money for clients. And what I used to tell clients, very simple, is, have you ever met anybody that's ever taken on the federal government and won? Have you all?
No.
No,
well,
but
I guess in a way I do, because it's all on the cannabis end of things. But otherwise, yes. No.
Right. Okay. So what I would tell them is, I said, look, I took on the federal government and won. I said, the expertise I used in taking on the federal government and winning is the expertise I use in my business. So if you want me for an attorney, for a broker, then you want me to be your broker. If marijuana bothers you, then don't use me as a broker, because I have to smoke 10 a day of this stuff. And then I did. I mean, driving, I had my protocol. Bob helped me write the protocol. and I had in there that I could drive. And to this day, I still use that protocol because in the state of Florida, you're not allowed to drive with marijuana. Okay, well, I have a federal prescription, and my federal prescription says I can drive all I want. Smoking marijuana.
Well,
and when they test people, I always joked with them, saying, "Test me." Test me because I don't get high. That's the weird thing. I never got high off marijuana, and I can dab, and dabbing I can get a little buzz, but smoking marijuana by itself, no. I don't get any euphoric effect. I never have. My body just doesn't do it. I don't know if it's the bone disorder or whatever, but I just don't get high off marijuana. And having so many friends now, having so many friends in the industry who get high and enjoy it, I'm jealous. I wish I got high in some respects.
What about you try something that's not from the government? Let's say you're out someplace.
Oh, I have.
I'm sure you have.
And all my,
do you find that affects you any different? Like, is it any stronger? Or
I can feel a little better as far as muscle relaxant, anti-inflammatory, and pain, but I still don't get high. Because whenever I travel, and I've traveled, in half this country, trying to pass laws in different states. Even when I came to Canada, okay, with treating yourself, everybody gave me marijuana. Hey, you got to try mine, man. This is going to make, this is great marijuana. So try mine. I'll try it, and I'd say, yeah, I like it. It's going to make me feel better. Well, you're high, aren't you? I go, no. No.
Did you get to experience the back balcony, or would you go out front? Because there to smoke joints, you had to go on the back balcony for the 1 year, and the other years we had to go out front. But then there was the vapor lounge inside as well.
Well, I did whatever I could do legally. I mean, hell, I used to arrange with the airlines to get me a room or something in between flights. When the flights were delayed, 3-4 hours, I would set up with the airline to get me a room so I could smoke. I've been taken. I was in New Orleans, what I had arranged to get to smoke because we had the 4-hour layover, and they didn't have a room for me. So they had called customs, they had called the police, they had called everybody. So there was like 5 people there, figuring out, well, what are we going to do with them? So the head of the airport said, well, we could take them on the tarmac. and they went, well, yeah, I guess we can do that. And they said, can you walk down a flight of stairs? I said, yeah. They said, well, let's do that then. And we walked down a flight of stairs, and I went outside on the tarmac. And smoked right there, Yeah. And so
now, in some ways, it seems like the government did win, in the sense that there was only 13 of you who were part of this program, only 13 people in all of America getting legal cannabis, but there was probably so many others who could benefit from it, which is why we got states doing it. But then George Bush shut the thing down, didn't he?
George Bush Sr. shut the program down, and 13 of us. I use the term 13. We were grandfathered in, so we didn't sue the government because Steptoe and Johnson, which is a big law firm in D.C., who represented Bob Randall, had sued the government for Bob, and they lost. Okay, and so Steptoe and Johnson, that law firm has been there for us ever since the late 70s.
Good.
And they're still there. They're still there for us. So the government did not want to take them on again. So when George Bush Sr. shut the program down, he was smart enough to say, hey, look, nobody else is going to get the marijuana. But the 13 of y'all are grandfathered in, so you will not lose your prescription. And again, it's one of the things I want to let people know is we actually have a federal prescription.
Mm-hmm.
There are no prescriptions in this country. I'm the only one left in the world and in this country that has a prescription.
People think, recommendation?
Exactly. I mean, even the media gets it wrong. They said, well, wait a minute, he has a prescription. No, he doesn't. He has a recommendation. Every state gives a recommendation, or every doctor gives a recommendation.
Even
not a
here
prescription.
In Canada. Even here in Canada. Yeah.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, when you speak of Canada, I got friendly when you all started your program with a company that was using marijuana legally, and they had come to my office to try to get us interested in buying the stock in that company.
Oh,
And so one of the women was one of the patients. And so I actually have a baggie from your government, that we traded.
yeah?
I gave her one of mine.
The gold envelope.
Yeah, gold envelope.
Yeah,
I actually have
gold
one.
envelope.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
But-
we only had access to at that time. Okay, back when we only had the one producer, we only had access. Actually, not even the producer. Like from when we bought it from the government, there was only the one strain which came from the Prairie Plant System. So that's the one company. And
Right.
we just got Cannabis Sativa L. It's all it was labeled as. Now, in your situation, do you guys just have access, basically the same thing, to one strain, or
Yes,
has
it
that
was.
changed over the years?
No, it was one strain. But to finish what I was going to say in Canada, is y'all are growing your marijuana in the bottom of a mine shaft.
That was
And
the first company, correct? Prairie Plant
exactly.
System. Yeah,
And what
yeah.
people didn't realize is, guess what? The plants were ingesting the mine shafts, the naughty chemicals.
Correct.
And so your marijuana was really adulterated. And then I realized, years ago, somebody told me, Irvin, they said, in Mississippi, they're growing it outdoors. They said, and whatever comes from the soil is going into the plant. So your plants are not sterile. They're not conducive for you. And so that kind of worried me. But again, I had no choice until we got the state laws changed, in different states.
Mhm.
So now, I'm getting it from a dispensary, and supposedly it's cleaner and it's much stronger. I mean, I'm getting marijuana that's 19 to 23, 24% THC. So I don't have to smoke 10 a day from the government. I smoke from Florida, which is about 4 a day.
Okay.
Because again, I'm getting as much medicine as I did when I smoked 10 a day. And it's much cleaner and much tastes better. That was
Yeah.
another thing. The taste sucked, but it was medicine.
And I got to assume that the only way that you're legally allowed to use your federal cannabis was to smoke it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No
that
other
was
way.
the only way. That was the only way I could do it. And so it was really funny, because I would smoke driving, and I'd sit up at a stoplight, and if it was warm, it usually is in South Florida. My window would be open or something, and the smoke would go out of my window and into the car next door. Especially a stoplight. Well, guess what? Because I'm Mark Cop. That happened quite a few times. And next thing I know, light turns green. I go and they pull me over. And I go, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
So the cop comes over and goes, "What's that you're smoking?" I go, "Cannabis sativa, provided by the United States federal government by prescription. Smell like marijuana to me." I said, "Well, some people call it that, but the federal government does not." So then they had to, I had to show my prescription, and they had to read the protocol, and it said that I could drive with it. So they could do that. Then they had to call their sergeant or their captain or whatever, and it took a while, for them to finally say, "Okay, you've got permission, so therefore we can't arrest you." And I had that happen. I had that happen quite a few times. I mean, maybe about a dozen times, and had problems on I had problems with airlines, and going through security. I got stopped a couple times.
Oh yeah, you're carrying your cannabis. Yeah.
Yeah, it took one time it took like 2 hours for them to approve me to go through. So I said, that's not going to happen again. So I called the chief of police of Fort Lauderdale, and I said, "Look, I'm a federal patient. Okay, and I get this from the government. And from now on, when I travel through an airline, I'm going to call y'all and let you know what time I'm going through security, what airline I'm on, and all this, that, and the other. So y'all don't waste your time." Because, at one time they had like 10, 11 cops, coming to get me at the airport. And I said, "I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time." So I would call them and let them know. And then I had to end up suing Delta Airlines one time. And because they wouldn't let me on the plane, I was headed to the Supreme Court. And the government, and the government did not want me there. And Delta had been great to me. I mean, Delta Airlines had bent over backwards for me a bunch of times. So I knew it wasn't Delta. I was the federal government. And so when this happened, I mean, they kept me from flying. They literally kicked me off the plane, wouldn't let me fly. I had to take another airline. I had to show up the next day. I missed a hearing. Luckily, it was the day before the Supreme Court hearing, so I was able to make the hearing at the Supreme Court. But I said, this will not happen again. And so I sued, I got an attorney, and we sued Delta Airlines with the understanding that it wasn't really Delta's fault. It was the federal government making Delta do it. And so we went to court.
They're working to prevent you from appearing before the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we went to court, and they ruled in my favor. And they said that I have every right to bring my medicine, my prescribed medicine, onto a plane. And so I have a court order saying that I can carry my medicine onto a plane. And so that kind of stopped that one. You know?
Yes.
So I've had a lot of legal battles, but I've done it the right way.
Yeah.
And I didn't piss anybody off. I never have. And every state I went into, I mean, was different. And the people with the drug-free organizations, like not drug-free, but normal marijuana policy project, all of those organizations had somebody that got pissed off, and they were kicked out of that state. And when it happened, and I was there in the state, they reiterated to me, Irvin, we're not kicking you out. You've been very congenial, very conservative, and you explain things. We're not kicking you out, we're kicking them out. And they literally kicked them out. But I never got kicked off or kicked out because I did it the right way. And so I was a good example of a federal patient that didn't take advantage of the situation. That just, held what I, what I believed, and I did the right way. And so, I was very instrumental in many, many states passing laws.
Well, I know that there was a time when we spoke that you were under the impression that there might be a problem with the cannabis that was being sent to you. It might have been tainted or something. It might have been.
Yeah, because I had a friend. Out? Well, I never got the marijuana tested because they wouldn't test it in Florida. And for me to ship it out of state was crossing state lines. And so I never got it tested.
So are you still receiving it from the government to this day?
No, I am not. Okay, but I don't have to. And what I mean by that is this, okay? I've been on the program since '82. And I was receiving 6 tins every 5 months since '82.
All right.
So I have a sufficient amount of government marijuana. Still sealed, unopened, that I have a lot. Okay. I have a whole lot. A whole lot. Okay. Now, I was curious about, because every prescription has a 1-year time limit to it. And so I had a friend in DEA who I got to know very well, and we met in D.C. at DEA headquarters. And he was a good guy. And I asked him, I said, is there any time limit for my marijuana? He said, well, legally, every prescription is only good for a year. He said they do that to protect the doctor. Meaning a prescription is not stale or bad or whatever after 1 year. It just protects the doctor. If something goes wrong, he can say, well, it's over a year old. You should have thrown it away. He said, Irvin, as long as you have a federal prescription and you have marijuana from the federal government, he said, you're a legal patient. Forever. He said, so, when you drive now in Florida, keep a tin can in your car.
That's right.
And if you get stopped, don't say that you're a Florida patient. Say you're a federal patient.
Yeah.
And give them your protocol. And it says right there, I'm allowed to drive. Okay, so therefore, officer, I'm just complying with my federal prescription. And well, this marijuana is 4 years, marijuana is 8 years old or 10 years old. I said, well, it was 9 years to start with, because they used to freeze it in North Carolina. And when we got it, the medicine was already like 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
fresh.
yeah. Oh, wow.
So
Well,
even
Old
now,
cannabis, jeepers.
yeah, 8 years old. Whew.
but it's been frozen. It's been frozen to keep it from degrading. And
Okay.
so the point is that it's still good. So I have enough. I mean, I joke, I've got enough marijuana to last me this lifetime and one more.
You got a few freezers full by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I've got.
Now, can you show us the tent? Can you show us the tent?
Yes.
Oh yeah, here are the tins, and
What's
of course
tin?
I sell. Here are the tins, and I sell these empty tins. Okay,
Okay.
All right.
because these are collector's items. I mean, there are no more of these being produced in the state of in the government by the government. There are no more of these.
No more.
So I sell these empty tins. Of course, they can't be filled because you can't sell marijuana in this
Is
country.
there
Right.
anything written on them or anything stamped
Oh
on them?
yeah, like this one is from 87, 86, excuse me, 86, and it says marijuana is spelled with an HUANA,
Wow.
cigarettes. Okay, and it says November of 86, net weight 300 cigarettes. It gives a weight. It gives Raleigh Research Triangle Institute and an ID number. And the more recent tins have 2 labels on there from the government. So I have those also. So they are collector's items. I mean, there are no more being made in this country, and I've got them. So if somebody wants a collector's item to keep their stash in or whatever, to say, hey, I've got it in a federal tin can, I sell them.
Nice.
And we used to sell them for $420. That's $420. Okay,
Right.
but lately I've been selling them for $250.
Oh yeah.
Because I've got a good amount of them. Okay.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, empty. I mean, and I've got a lot of full ones, but I haven't opened the full ones because I haven't needed to.
Right.
But if I need to, I will, and because I've got them, and so I figured let me sell off all my empty tins first, and then if I have to, I can always open ones that are full, take the marijuana out and sell the tin, or hopefully one day it'll be legal for me to be able to sell them with full marijuana in them.
Now, the ones that are full, do you keep them in a freezer like the government did?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
He's got a few chest freezers. I can just sell.
Yeah. I've got like I said, I've got a good amount. Believe me, I have a lot of them. And but again, nobody wants this medicine. I mean, it's 3%, 3.5% THC.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can go to the dispensary and get 25% THC. So, the real connoisseurs of marijuana, they don't want this garbage, because that's really what it is. But again, I never considered it garbage because it saved my life.
Yep.
It can stop the tumors from growing. I haven't had a tumor grow now since I was 23.
Wow.
And I attribute that to the marijuana because it anti-tumor growth. It does that. So I was very fortunate to get it. And believe me, I'm not knocking the government by providing me, low potency THC because they didn't know. The government never wanted to agree that marijuana was beneficial. I mean, they didn't. And I sure as hell, I couldn't, convince them to do that. I'm not a patient. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm a patient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so all I could do was to say to them, thank you for providing it to me. Thank you for making me legal, that I could stand up and talk about it and not worry about Johnny Law walking in on me and arresting me.
Yep.
So I was very fortunate. I'm still very fortunate from the government to have a prescription for medicine, which nobody else has in this country. I mean, there's 330 million people in this country, and I'm the only one with a federal prescription.
Yeah.
I mean, LV is basically out of it, so she doesn't have anything else. And we're only 2 patients alive, LV and I.
Wow.
We're the only 2. Everybody else is dead. Okay? And so we're very fortunate that we, have it. And LV's doing pretty good. I mean, LV's like 86 years old. And
I've got like 4 or 5 interviews with her in the archives of timeforhemp.news and a few of LV and a couple of George McMahon. And that's it. And I can hear George's voice in my ear. I miss George. He was a ball of love.
George was fantastic. Okay. George was the greatest. And he and I were very similar And our disorders, even though they were different, they were very similar in how they reacted on us. But George was so different from me, and we got along great. I mean, he and I, when we were on a stage together, oh my God, we were fantastic together. I miss George so much.
He was
He was,
electrifying.
he was, and you know, and again, he was very countryish. I mean, being from Iowa, and but he knew what he was doing, and he and I were brilliant together. We were so good together, he and I.
Well, and he was so nice towards the end of his path in life. He was doing very few interviews, and he was nice enough to come back to Time for Hemp a couple more times to share his story and to be part of what we're doing here. I'm forever grateful to have George as a friend in my path, and I just count myself blessed to have LB and you in my path as well. Now, you've written a pretty groovy book about your experiences, haven't you?
Yeah. Here's the book, and here's the book, and it's.
Did you get it on Amazon or where?
I think it's on Amazon, but mostly what they would do was.
I have it on the screen right there.
Okay, and it's how I convinced the U.S. government to provide my marijuana and help launch a national movement, and it's the entire history of the medical marijuana movement in this country, as seen through my eyes, and I'm the one that helped pioneer everything because Bob did the best he could, Bob Randall, but he got sick. I mean, he ended up having AIDS, and he died in 2000, and from AIDS. And Bob was brilliant. Okay, people said to me when I took over, "Aren't you glad to be number one in the country?" And I went, "No, I'm not." I said, "Because Bob was better than me. Bob was brilliant. Okay, he was great. He was great. And so therefore, it never bothered me to be number two to somebody who's better than me.
We would have had him on this. We would have had him on the show had he not passed away so early in his path. I got to talk to him a few times on the phone when I worked with Jack Hare. He and Jack Hare spoke a lot on the phone. And because I ran Jack's office, I had an opportunity to become a friend of Bob Randall. And he was just brilliant, caring, patient, very well spoken, just a pleasure to be around.
Bob took rhetoric in college. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why he was such a good spokesperson.
All right.
And I've been doing for the last 32 years. I work with an organization called Shake a Leg in Miami, in Coconut Grove. It's a disabled sailing program. I mean, we have sailboats that are set up for any type of disability: paraplegics, quadriplegics, spinal bifida, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, you name it. Wounded warriors. I mean, we sail with everybody. We get them out, and these boats have chairs built into them for the disabled. And I've been a skipper now down there for 32 years. And the girl they put me with when we started was a quadriplegic. She was 5'10", tall girl, and she had dove into a pool when she was drunk at a party, and she dove in the shallow end and broke her back, broke her neck. And so they put us together, and we were both addicted. And Karen, her name is Karen Mitchell. Karen was a great skipper, and she reminded me of Bob Randall. And what I mean by that is I'm a great skipper. I'm really good, just like I was good for Bob, with Bob. But the point is, Karen was better than me. And so people said, well, do you mind, sailing with Karen? I said, heck no, she's better than me. I never mind being with somebody who's better than me. To me, it's a challenge. To me, it's a challenge. Hey, you're better than me? Fine. Let me see what I can do. And so we raced together and things like that. And we raced together for like 5 years. And it was a joy because she was that good. And it never bothered me that she was better than me. And Bob was better than me. And so it never bothered me being with Bob. But I mean, we had our discussions and we had our problems together. And we would discuss things. And when we finished, if Bob said, Irvin, this is what I'm going to do, I went along with him. I never went against him. Because one thing Bob always said to me, which is very true, is our enemy is not people that have a different way of wanting marijuana legalized. Our enemy are people that are against marijuana.
That's right.
Period.
Mm.
Okay, so if you've got somebody that is in favor of medical marijuana but has a totally different idea of how to go about it, that's not an enemy.
Right.
Respect them, okay, and try to learn from them and try to help them any way you can, because we don't know the right way of doing it. If we did, we'd have done it already.
Yeah.
And so therefore, they're not our enemy, okay, and that's how I lived, and that's what Bob and I did together. And so, yeah, I do that with Shake a Leg.
Well,
So-
it has been a real honor to have you back as a guest on the big broadcast today, Irv. You are a pioneer, and you are a huge hero of mine. And I want to let you know that I really enjoy every time we chat.
Well, I enjoy it too, Casper. You've done a lot, and Al, you all done a lot in Canada, and I appreciate North America, because Canada, United States, I mean, we may have our differences, but we really don't. When it comes down to it, we both, really have the same, desires. We may go about it differently, but we still have the same desires. And when it comes to marijuana and hemp, I mean, especially with hemp, I mean, I learned about hemp in the mid '80s, and there was a guy that I respected, and he's still around today, Don Wershafter.
Oh, Donnie, great guy.
Yeah. Donnie's fantastic. And in the mid '80s, Donnie tried to convince me, he says, "Irvin, you and I are just alike." And I went, "No, we're not. I want medical marijuana and you want hemp." He said, "Irvin, it's one and the same." It took him about 3 years to convince me. Finally, I agreed with Donnie. Donnie, you're right. We are in the same.
Yep.
So, so I was always very tight with hemp because of Donnie.
Good old Donnie. So
And
do you
I've
have a
known-
website you want to put a spotlight on?
I don't know if he has a website or not, but he has museums now in Ohio. He tried to open a museum about a block away from the White House, but that fell through. And I'm still close with Donnie. And in fact, I have 3 tin cans in my garage. And he told me in 2013, he said, "Irvin, do you have any extra marijuana?" I said, "Yeah, Donnie, I got plenty of extra marijuana." He said, "Can you put away 3 tins for me, for my museum?" I said, "Sure, Donnie, I'd be glad to." So I've got 3 tins in my garage, which again, because it's hot in the garage and everything, these aren't smokable. I mean, you wouldn't open them up and smoke them.
Right.
But they're sealed. They're sealed with the government labels. And so I've got 3 tins for Donnie one day when it's legal, where he can pick them up and take them back to Ohio with him. And it'll happen one day. I know it will. And so Donnie and I mean, we go back to, like I said, about 85 or 75, whatever. Yeah, 75. So we go back a long way, and I respect him. And he was one of the first people. I mean, he was Mr. Hemp. And so I applaud what you've done and what all of us have done. And hopefully, one day we've won this far, we've gone this far, and we're still alive. And hopefully we'll be alive when we finally win it all.
Boy, that'd be nice.
Sure would be.
But I'm 100, so I don't know. I tell people I'm 100.
And it's patients that have been doing all this.
You go into a restaurant, Irv, and they tell you that your bill is $70 and you leave a 15% tip and you pay with a $100 bill. You don't get anything back, right?
That's pretty true.
I'm
Yeah.
100.
Well, I'm not that old. I'm only 73. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. Okay. So I hope I keep lasting, but I've had physical problems, and so you never know, but marijuana's kept me alive, and I know it. Okay. So that's why I fought so hard for it.
Do you have your own website you want people to check out?
No, I don't.
All right.
No, they can order my book. I mean, I'll send you a link to where they can order my book from me, because it's easier ordering it from me.
All right.
It's cheaper that way than Amazon, and shipping wise, it's cheaper.
All
Plus, I'll send you tin cans if anybody wants a tin can. I mean, because these are collector's items.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
They
thank
don't
you
have
very much.
Definitely. And I appreciate that time, and it's good talking to y'all.
And Al, do you have any final questions for Irv?
I do have one final question. According to reports in a 2016 newspaper, they say that you have consumed over 135,000 joints at that time in your life. 10 years have passed by now. Got any idea where that number sits now?
A lot more. And actually, to let you know, in 2014, I was named in the Guinness Book of World Records for smoking more marijuana than anybody in the world. Because they could count. I mean, you could count 10 a day for how many years? 10 a day for however many years. And so I can prove it. Where other people say, well, I've smoked that much, they can't prove it.
So you've outsmoked Willie and you've outsmoked Snoop Dogg.
Yes. So I can prove it. So yeah, I've smoked more marijuana, that I can say than anybody in the world. And I've got a tray here that I was given in 1972 when I left college to take on the federal government. And I guarantee you there's been more marijuana rolled on that tray than any tray in the world, Yeah. And I've told my wife that when I die, that tray should go to Smithsonian.
Yep.
It
sure should.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And,
all right. So, as Casper said, it's been great talking to you, Irv. And
thank you.
I used to see you all the time in the documentaries and videos that I used to show at cafes in my area to educate people on cannabis. So to actually finally, I met you at the expo, but to sit here and talk to you for the last hour, it's been great.
Well, I've enjoyed it also, and y'all keep up the good work because y'all do a lot of good work, and it takes all of us. I mean, it really takes all of us. I mean, you mentioned Jack Herrera. I mean, Jack was a friend of mine, okay, and he was a good guy. But there's so many good guys. Dennis Perrone. I mean, there's so many that that are gone.
Yes.
And
and one of the nice things is they are found in the archives at timeforhemp.news. I've kept every interview that I've ever done in my lifetime. I even interviewed Jesus before they hung him on the cross, and you can find that in our archives. And,
I believe it.
At timeforhemp.news, and it's all about how important it is to end cannabis prohibition. So, Irv, I love you so much, and it has been a real joy to have you back as part of the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network, and to find you again in our archives on a more current broadcast. So, thank you for being here.
Oh, anytime I can help, I will.
I will. And Al Graham, we're going to give a big shout out to the Pace Radio Network up there and what's going on.
Yes, you can find the Pace Radio Network at paceradio.net. We are people advocating cannabis education, and you can find new show released every day of the week.
And we want to let everybody out there know that we appreciate all that you're doing. Hit the like button any chance you get. Maybe subscribe to our content. You can also find lots of free music downloads at timeforhemp.news. All of our audio broadcasts have been posted there. You can download them for free as well. There's a good number of years. Our video broadcasts are found there, and you can share those with your friends and make it a point to help us raise our voice so we can let the whole world know just how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Throughout us history, hemp has been used, no mystery. Hemp was legal to pay your taxes for more than a century. Check your faxes. The founding fathers make sense to me. It's time to grow hemp legally. Think of all its uses. It's money that's well spent right now. No excuses, it's time for hemp. Sustainable green industry that that's our intent. A better place this world will be. It's time for hemp. Fuel and food and clothes and soap, housing, cars, yeah, cars, no joke. Henry Ford built a car of hemp. It's time for us to do it again. People be employed with balanced farming as it's meant right now. It's time for hemp. Hemp is a true necessity for the wealth and protection of this country. Thomas Jefferson spoke those words. He knew the value of these herds. It's time to lift the hemp ban. It's time to make a strong stand. Yes, we can. I know we can. We can make a difference. Yes, we can. Just like birds of a feather. Yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation. Yeah, it's time for him.